Hi, welcome to the Reloading Podcast, brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network. Today, my co-host Jim Fleming and I are going to be talking about storage. How you doing today, Jim?
Just fine, sir. How about yourself?
Pretty good. It was a beautiful day here in Wisconsin, and got a good chance to enjoy the sun today. And how about you?
Well, after I got off work today, I took a nap, but when I woke up, it had been raining for about 3 hours, and it's been
Oh,
raining
that's no
all
fun.
evening. Well, I was actually able to take. I made up for it yesterday. Did a couple things. I was shooting a 243 Ruger Hawkeye. I did some load testing on it, and I'm satisfied because it's just a deer hunting gun. And I came up with a 7/8 of an inch group at 100 yards.
Awesome.
Plus two, I took a brand new shooter shooting yesterday.
Oh, even cooler.
Yep, I agree. I started the boy out, 28-year-old young man, I should say. I started him out with a BB gun, and showed him how to do the 6 o'clock bullseye and all that. And I started him out with a BB gun, and carefully, and showed him about 4 rules of safety, the whole 9 yards as far as don't point the gun at anybody or all that. And one of the last things I had to say to him was, if you point that gun at me, we're done. You can go home. You won't be back. That sort of thing. And he was fine. He was very good about it.
Awesome.
Safe,
That is so nice when you.
safe. Everything was safe and fun. And we started out with a BB gun. We wound up with a 30-30 with a brass butt plate. And he got a little taste of what recoil's about.
How'd you handle that?
He sent me a private message today. He says, the bruise on my shoulder isn't too bad.
That's not too bad then.
No, I agree. It was a good time.
I didn't get much done in firearms this week. I did order some ammo offline and ordered or online, and then ordered a powder trickler. And then yesterday, the boys and I went out to a local archery shop, Little John's Archery, local here, and got the boys brand new Diamond Extreme bows. So they're all happy about that.
One thing I did do yesterday that I didn't care for too much is when I was cleaning my Ruger Mark II, I lost the rebounding spring that goes underneath of the I made a mistake of cleaning my gun outside on my back deck. My back deck is down on the ground. I would have to do some serious damage to find that spring because it rolled between the cracks. So today I went to Numerich Arms, Gun Parts Corp, I think it is, gunpartscorp.com, and I ordered 5 new rebounding springs. $4.50 each.
Well, that way you definitely do.
Yeah, but $4.50 each and $9 shipping. So that's a $30 lesson. Don't clean your gun on the back deck anymore.
Yeah, that's not good when you're cleaning on the back deck or cleaning it elsewhere. I've lost a couple springs that way by cleaning them where I shouldn't. So tonight we're talking about storage because we've now completed all the steps to load ammo, and so now we're going to explain about storage and different options, and also maybe delve into a little bit of storing some of your equipment when you're not using it.
Well, a lot of us shooters have been in the military, and we're all familiar with the infamous or famous GI ammunition can. They're heavy duty, they're strong, they're watertight, they have handles on them, and all that sort of thing. And you can buy them, usually military surplus. The little 30 caliber cans, they're good. You probably go for $15, but you go up to the 50 caliber ammo cans, you might pay $25, maybe even $30 per can for that. And reloading is about saving money.
Yeah.
So we need to come up with some alternatives as to something strong enough to handle the weight of the ammunition, let's face it, I've got a, excuse me, I don't mean to get off camera. But I've got one round of 357 right here with 158 grain semi-wad cutter in it. But you know what? 10 of those is 1,580 grains.
Yep.
And 100 of those, 15,000 grains. So, you know, 16,000 grains. You know, we're talking well over two pounds. You know, and that's just for 100 rounds. So you've got to have some storage that's rather sturdy and reliable. And you know, you can any number of ways of doing it. You know, when most reloaders start out, they start out putting their ammunition right back in the boxes that the cases came from.
That's what I.
Mike,
That's what I was
we
just.
couldn't have done that better if we tried. Nice,
Yep.
nice segue.
Yeah, I haven't gotten into setting up the multi-stage press yet, so I'm not cranking out ridiculous amounts of ammo. But yeah, every time I've gone out and shot ammunition that I knew I was going to be reloading, I kept all the boxes and everything, so that way it's easier to store hunting ammunition, especially. It's nice to store in the boxes because it's easier to take that out into the field than hauling the ammo can or trying to figure out another way to hold it, because most of your hunting ammunition, if I can get the box open, even if you just save the little plastic holders that you put that the shells come in, they work great for hunting. The nice thing is, in most of these, if you look on the ends, you'll see how they got the slots here. Those work great for throwing on a belt, or you know, just running some string through if you don't have the box or the boxes get wet.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's starting out small, like most normal reloaders. I don't consider myself to be a normal reloader. You're still in what I would call the normal stages, Mike.
Yep. So, another lovely thing that you can do is the MTM or the various other cases. These I've got just a couple of brass in here currently. Was working on cleaning them up and working on a recipe, and that's how far I got with that because life interrupted. But these work really nice because you can put them on the bench, and they also work in place of your standard reloading blocks for holding the ammunition once it's done. You know, if you just have to have something, especially your precision ammunition, where you want to keep it a little safer and a little separate so it's not bouncing around. But yeah, the ammo cans work really nice. I've actually got some bulk ammo in that. That one's actually buried in the back of the closet currently. I did some reorganizing earlier this week, so I didn't pull that out. But ammo cans you can find a lot of places. If you, most of your states have a surplus link where they sell off their surplus stuff. Some of the states it's open to the public. Some of it you have to have a couple hoops you jump through. But I found that's a great place to get ammo cans because they sell off the ammo cans from the military, and usually you can get skids of them, and they're usually cheap. So if you get a few buddies together and you go in on them, it's usually not bad. But it's definitely cheaper than buying them in the store because the store does the same thing. They buy them from the military or the government, and then they resell them. So you're saving yourself some money there.
You'll have to excuse me. I'm actually looking for the MTM Case Guard website. Looks like the ammobox.com site is down for whatever ugly reason.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, I quite agree. What I'm going to try to do now, I don't know if I'm not familiar enough with what I was going to do is actually, well, Mike, you know what? You might make a note to put a link up for that particular box, or MTM Case Guard, case-gard.com. MTM.
Yeah, I'll have links for all these in the show notes.
Yep. And that box there was a box for 50 round 308 ammunition box, is what I call it. It's not the right name, but it'll hold 243, hold 222, 250. That particular size and style is a very common. I think you can even put 270 or 30-06 in that box. Is that right, Mike?
I've not tried, but I think a 30-06 or 270 would be stretching it.
Okay, well, they make them similar.
Maybe
the only difference would be
the empty brass you could. Oops.
Yeah,
Yeah, the empty
they would.
brass you could probably put in there.
What's nice about those ammo boxes, like at the MTM ammo boxes, what's nice about them is the fact that you can take that into the field, and they're not waterproof, but they're certainly water resistant.
Yeah, that they are, and they're pretty durable and rugged. I've dropped them a couple times. Actually had one fall out of the back of the truck and go bouncing down the road. It was empty at the time, but we had the empty ones sitting in the back of the pickup truck and forgot to shut the tailgate. And one of them went bouncing down the road quite a bit. Came out of the back of the box probably about, I don't know, 45, 50 miles an hour. There was a scratch from the
Ow.
gravel it landed on, and that was it. Didn't crack. It didn't even pop open. So
That's
they're pretty
great.
durable.
That's great. But as we were talking about, these ammo boxes cost money, and MTM Case Guard also sells plastic 50 caliber, 30 caliber, various sizes. The larger shooting box for the larger bulk ammunition. They sell theirs too, and they go for about $15. The box Mike had in his hand goes anywhere between $3.50 to $5, I believe. I could be wrong on the price, but anyway, the other thing is too. Yeah, I don't know how much those are, and I don't care to take it.
I just pulled the
Spend their
sticker
time.
off of it. It was 350.
350. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
the thing
sorry about that.
is, Jim Fleming is known for being one cheap bastard. One cheap bastard. So I have access. Excuse my rattling. I have access to some different kind of containers. 2 rounds, 357 ammunition, and it's loaded up, all that sort of thing. But I use a plastic bottle for that. That's one of my systems, and it's a very sturdy. It's actually the original package is for pulverized, not pulverized, welding powder, spray welding powder, and the container originally weighs about 11.5 pounds when we get it from our supplier, and we use quite a bit of the welding powder, which means I basically scrounge up every one of these cans, bottles. I can use this for ammunition. I can also use it for bullets. I do put a lot of bullets in here. It's nice because it's such a sturdy container. Sorry about the terrible noise, but anyway, you get the idea. They're for free. I take them out of the trash and I get them for free. Another idea, and this isn't quite so substantial, and that is most of us use margarine at our table. I'm not going to get into the brand or whatever, but here's some 243 brass that I emptied yesterday. And I did make the mistake of mixing the brass and the ammo together, but you get the idea. Not too shabby as far as that goes. Now this is for nice quantities. I like using these butter dishes or Cool Whip dishes like this in the shop or in the reloading room, or also for when I'm handling 100 rounds at a time. Something like that right there will take and easily handle. I have my wife save every one that we generate or collect, simply because once in a while they'll crack, or I get them dirty with bullet lube, or you get sticky, and then the only thing I can use it for is bullets. But I don't want to take and put the case or the bullet lube around live ammunition like that.
Yeah, there's lots of different containers you can use. One of the things I use for storing some of my my extra boxes and some of my dies and stuff is one of these lovely plastic totes like this.
You betcha.
I got a few of these laying around with reloading stuff in it, so that makes life a little easier to store. Trying to think of some of the different things that I've seen people at the range with, other than ammo cans.
The thing is, if you're willing to spend money, you can go into Big Lots or even Walmart or anything like that, or even Kmart, and you can actually buy the sterilite plastic containers to take and store your boxes of ammo, your dies, stuff like that. It all depends. You just use your imagination. You know, we're not limited. You're limited
No.
only by your own imagination.
And here's the common question that I get when they see the bucket of ammo come out. People go, well, aren't they going to go off? The chances, theoretically, in a absolute worst case scenario, like you drop it off the back of the truck at 55 miles an hour and two of them happen to bump together just right to hit the primer, there possibly could be enough force to maybe dent the primer. Probably not enough force to actually ignite the primer. But it takes quite a bit of force to set off a primer. I don't think people realize that.
Well, the thing is with that, there have been concussion tests done for that, and I don't have the data at my fingertips, but I know there have been tests done when they would deliberately set off ammunition. They take a container of ammunition just like this, and they'd nail it with a rifle shot, and yeah, 1 or 2 rounds might go off because they nailed the primer. Well, that's it. There is no sympathetic detonation because there just isn't enough force. The other thing is, too, the force is contained and then immediately released when the brass case splits or when the brass case flies off the bullet. All the force is released. A brass projectile doesn't fly that well. It doesn't contain the energy that a moving bullet does. What I'm saying is, if you cook off a live round, all that's going to happen is the brass is going to fly off of the bullet. Because it depends, even 22 rimfire if it cooks off. 22 rimfire bullet is 36 grains, but yet the 22 rimfire case is 10 grains. The case is going to split or pop off, and that's it.
Yeah, and for anybody that does have any issues thinking it's dangerous, go buy a bulk pack of 22 rounds. Go buy your bulk. Most of your ammo, if you buy the bulk stuff, it comes in ammo cans, and that's all packed in loose. Obviously, if they're shipping this stuff, putting it on store shelves, they're knowing it's going to be handled roughly. It's not been an issue. So by all means, folks.
That's an excellent point. I didn't even think about that. And if anybody were to say anything about that, that would be UPS and FedEx for handling bulk ammunition like that. That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that.
And they don't have a problem with it. So trucking companies don't have a problem with it. The the ICC, Interstate Commerce, whatever,
yes.
Trucking regulations.
Yep.
The unnamed trucker could tell me exactly off the top of my head, but yeah, I know.
I know who the unnamed trucker is.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, that kind of brings me into my standby for storage of my ammunition components, brass, ammo, and bullets. Do you drink coffee, Mike?
Yes, I do.
Then you have an unlimited supply of containers. The good old-fashioned 3-pound coffee can with a nice handle on there, and it's got a big old pocket full of ammunition in it. Ain't that's me out. And they stack so nice. That's basically the main step. I don't drink coffee, but where I work, they have a coffee mess there. By that, I'm saying a slush fund for a coffee pot or whatever. You know what I'm saying. Coffee mess. But anyway, once they do that, I get a coffee can off of those folks once every 5 days. I have an unlimited supply of coffee cans.
That's a lot of coffee.
Well, they've got about 20 people drinking from it. It's $5.
Oh, that's not bad then.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's not bad. And the nice thing is the newer plastic jugs aren't going to cause any tarnishing on the ammunition like the old steel cans did. Plus, they're a little quieter, and plus they stack a lot better.
Yeah, that's true. All of that, what you just said is true. I still have quite a few. I'll bet you I have 15 or 20 of the old coffee cans. Now, the one thing I'll give the old metal coffee cans is they're a lot stronger.
Yeah. Yeah, they hold up better. I don't know. I've taken most of my old coffee cans and I use them for storing nuts and bolts and stuff.
So I
That
got
type of
news
thing.
for you, folks. I have filled up one of these with lead bullets, 9 millimeter, 357, and rifle bullets, whatever, cast bullets. I've filled one of these up with bullets that I've made, and well, you know what? It's heavier than Hades when I go to pick it up, but it holds up. That's enough strength for me.
Yeah, lead weighs quite a bit in a small package. So, um, I'm sorry. So, what is the strangest thing you've ever seen people put ammunition in?
Powdered metal welding bottles.
You're not supposed to count yourself.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. Excuse me. No, well, most of the folks will wind up putting it in, like I've helped clean out hunting camps and stuff like that, and it's amazing where ammunition will wind up in various nooks and crannies in a home or a compartment or pockets or wherever. I myself, I have a range kit. It's a big 20-gallon tote, but it's with a hinged lid that I bought at Home Depot. They call it a gang box, basically a toolbox, construction toolbox, but it's made out of plastic. But anyway, the thing is, I hadn't looked in it since probably April, and I must have accidentally dropped about 6 or 8 rounds of 357 in there, and it's like just rolling around
Bonus.
loose in there. And here I am hauling my ammunition around all over God's creation. Well, that's what I try to do, because I do on occasion enter the country of Canada with my vehicle. I try to take and be quite responsible and make sure that my ammunition never crosses international borders.
Yeah, they tend to not like that up there. They've got their own set of rules, and they don't like if you try and bring your fun toys across the border.
No, but that's another issue, and it can be done. Handguns are just about impossible, but rifle bullets, rifle ammunition can be brought across, and rifles, of course. But that's interesting, because you just made me think of some rifle and ammunition. That 357 ammunition also fits quite well in my Marlin 1894C model that's chambered in 357 Magnum. So
Those are fun.
you see how my mind thinks. As we were shooting that yesterday, and I wouldn't have a problem with taking that into Canada once I declare it.
So, with your being an international man of mystery, have you had a chance to do any shooting up in Canada, or just because the reasons for visiting doesn't allow it?
It's not that I'm not allowed. It's just simply I haven't had the time, and the folks that I'm visiting really don't have much interest. They'd rather come down here to the U.S. and shoot my ammunition down here.
So what you need to do, since you're making all these travels across, is I hear Canada has a enormous supply of 22 long rifle. You should see if you can appropriate some of that and bring it back.
I would love to. I notice I qualified that. I
Yeah,
would like to very much, but I don't
I don't
care
know
to
what the
take
rules
in.
on that are.
Right. I don't care to take and get into customs and immigration or anything like that.
Yeah, I suppose
I
the
don't
rules
know
are
the
probably
law,
pretty
so I'm not
stiff.
going to take and I'm not going to play with it. Once
Yeah,
I know the
rules are
law, that's
probably.
different.
We should
Oh,
check into that.
that's not a bad idea. I probably can. I would just have to take and check with customs and immigration, ICE.
Yeah, I have to see what sort of rules and regs there are on that. I know going the other way, it's virtually impossible unless you're shipping it in. From what I've been told from people going up there to hunt. A couple people I know have gone up there after Canadian whitetail and caribou, so they said that the one person told me that there's so many regs they just didn't even bother to stun the ammunition. They just bought it there because they shoot 308. But the other person, they've got one of the Ackleys, I don't remember which one. He was going after caribou, and he had to wind up paying to ship his ammunition across. Now, this is 10, 15 years ago, so I don't know what's changed between then and now, but...
Well, you've got a point. But the thing is, too, folks, you know, like I tell, when we get into discussions like this in the Reloading Room on Facebook, this podcast is a very poor place to take and get good, solid, reliable information about carrying ammunition across international borders.
Yeah, I'll look that up just for curiosity's sake and anything, and I'll put that in the show notes, which you can find at reloadingpodcast.com, or usually there's a link on the Google Plus or the Facebook page too for Reloading Podcast.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So that's basically, well, you see, like Mike said, we basically have talked ourselves through the process of reloading our ammunition. Well, the next thing is, where are you going to store it? That's why we decided to go with storage of ammunition tonight. And one of the things that I'm sure Mike would agree with me is, like, you know, you listeners out there, I know you're out there. Jason, you know exactly who I'm talking to. Send us some feedback, man. You know, Alan, same thing. I know two people that listen to this podcast. They listen to the audio of it, and they both know exactly who I'm talking about because they're both admins in my reloading room. But the point is, send us some feedback. Let us know what you want us to discuss.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we want to talk about what you guys want to hear about. That's what this podcast is all about. It's to give the new shooters and especially the people that are kind of wondering about reloading. It's to give them that initial start, but also, you know, we intend this to be an informational forum. So, just much like the Reloading Room, but only a video format. And you know, if it's something that, you know, we can demonstrate, by all means, we'd love to try and demonstrate. You know, the video helps so much, but also we would love to have people put their input. Unfortunately, the Q&A didn't work tonight for whatever reason. I'm not sure. I think I just clicked the wrong button, but you know, you can put the comments on the regular Google Plus page, and I'm checking that and looking in on that. I see John Jackson, first-time listener tonight, so thanks for checking in, John. And we've got Jason watching right now too. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Jason Trumbull.
Is that the Jason? Huh? Say again?
Jason Trumbull.
Hey, Jason. Nice to see you, buddy. I'm glad you're there.
You know, and so we want to make it an interactive also. You know, put your questions. We've got a question from a listener that we got, and I'm going to pull that up. We got it through the feedback on the site. Give me just a minute here to pull that up quick. But we want to have you ask your questions so we can get them answered for you. Come on, computer. Never fast when you want it to be.
Yeah, I hear you. I quite agree. I'm trying to take and navigate my own way to the sometimes I swear I use this iPad for the podcast, but it's peculiar because it seems like it also bogs down my computer. And my computer, of course, is a PC. I see and the iPad, of course, is what do you call it? Well, Apple-based. I'm going to try something here, Mike. I'm going to join the Hangout and see if I can see what's going to happen here. I'm probably going to wind up overloading my bandwidth. I don't know. But anyway, glad to see Jason. I think if you're still out there, buddy, I'm glad you're there. That you were exactly the person I was talking to. Okay, you're about to join a Google Plus Hangout on the air. Okay, Jim Fleming joined the call. No, I don't have any video. Okay, yeah, that's me. So I'm in the podcast actually twice. Oh, sorry about that. Let me turn my speaker down.
All right, so
Gotcha.
Tony K sent me an email, and we actually did answer his questions when we were to a point when we were going through last week talking about bullet seating. He had a couple questions about straight wall versus bottleneck, or topics that he wanted to kind of know about was straight wall versus bottleneck. Talking about straight walls with carbide dies don't need to require lubing, the bottlenecks do. How if you're using boat tail bullets, you don't necessarily need to expand the neck. The really only thing you ever need to really expand the neck on, like we were doing last week, the flaring, is lead cast, because lead cast aren't going to be strong enough to force their way into that brass. What happens with lead cast, and I've actually got an example of one here. Let me bring my video back up so I can see what we're doing. But when you look, as I roll this along and it focuses, you can see on the brass, you can see the little bits of lead, and that's from where you force that bullet in. It actually shears some of it off and puts it around the outside. That's why you flare the case mouth, is so that when you're using lead cast bullets, which are softer, they're going to be able to go into that case without shredding anybody off. Now, when I shoot that bullet, I guarantee you, when I shoot that cartridge, that bullet's not going to go very accurately if I'm beyond 5 yards. At 5 yards, it's probably not going to make a difference. I get anything farther than that, that slice that I took out of that bullet is going to cause it to wobble a little bit, and a little bit aerodynamically, maybe a nanometer. But it's going to be enough to affect my grouping. Now, those are practice bullets, so it's not that big of a deal. Now, if I was loading for hunting, if I was hunting with a handgun, then that'd be a big issue, because I wouldn't want to use those bullets because it's going to affect accuracy. There's a chance that I could have that cause an error in my aim point and wound an animal in the, in the back end or in the gut, where I'm now not ethically hunting anymore. I'm, causing problems and causing issues where that animal's going to suffer. So that's where it the lead cast bullets is the big issue, not necessarily your brass jacketed, or your copper jacketed bullets.
I agree.
What's that?
I agree.
And the other point he was talking about was the full length resizing versus neck sizing. If you watched last week's episode, you got to see me go through that very clearly. Not necessarily intentionally, but what happened is when I was trying to make that dummy case for the 308, I honestly had not used my neck-only sizing die in a long time. So what happened is we had a disappearing bullet, because this case right here wasn't sized properly, and so when I go to line it up, the bullet drops right in. This is because I was using, dang it, get out of there, a neck-only sizing die. Now, what this does is, instead of sizing the whole brass case, it just sizes this right here. What you're going to gain with that is you're going to gain overall life of the cartridge. Plus, the other benefit of that is, if you've actually already, like this here, this started out as a Winchester white box. So I just bought cheap ammo to shoot, and when I fired the original full metal jacket out of this, it what we call fire formed the case to my rifle. So now the only thing I need to do is resize the neck so the bullet doesn't do the magic disappearing trick. And that's what that advantage of that die is. So you're not putting the pressure on the rest of the brass, you're not wearing the rest of the brass. One of the other things that he was talking about is rimmed versus rimless. I don't have any. I might have. Bear with me a second. I gotta go digging.
Well, the thing is what No, I pretty much have forgotten the questions. Mike seems to be doing an excellent job answering them. But anyway,
All
no,
right.
the thing is, Mike was talking about flaring the case mouth. Well, the thing is, you have to, if you use cast bullets in rifle ammunition, in bottleneck ammunition, I should say, you also have to use special dies to flare, very gently flare the cartridge neck for that rifle bullet, cast rifle bullet.
Yep. Yeah, you can't do what we were doing, where you just kind of. Sometimes with your pistol, your straight weld cartridges, you can actually just use varying tools to actually flare that case out. Some people actually even just use something as simple as, depending on how far they need to flare it, a deburring tool. I've seen people use that. No, it's not recommended. Will it work? Yes. Don't do it, though, because it'll cause weakened case mouth, because it's not the right tool designed for it. Now, what he was talking about by rimmed versus rimless, now what I have in my hand is, on the shorter one, this one here, it's a 308, and this one here is a 303. Now, as I turn them, hopefully this will work. Probably go this way.
Yeah, hold it still as you can, because your camera is having a rough time focusing so close.
Yeah, let's see here. So as you can see right here, this is a little lip, and it's not focusing well enough.
There, it's coming close.
There we go.
Keep rolling it down.
All right, so let's see here.
Perfect.
There we go. Okay, so you can see the difference in the two. This one here has a little groove here, but the overall is smooth. The rim, which is the very edge here, is still even with the rest of the brass, whereas on the 303, oh, that's fun. You can see there's just a little raise on that. Excuse me. It basically, for most of your reloading, the only difference you're ever going to notice is the shell holder with this incident. Now, the one thing you do need to make sure of is you want to check for head separation. And Jim kind of explained that a little bit, but the easy way to look is, there we go. Come on, go back in. You were just really nice. Ooh. Stupid webcam. You can kind of see this is a military case, so I won't ever reload this because it's a pain in the butt. But there's a little discoloration, so even if I was going to reload this, it's still not eligible, because there's a chance that if you shoot this again, the brass may actually separate from the rim. But that's one of the bigger concerns.
What Mike's talking about is also called, you'll notice the difference in the coloration, or you'll see a bright ring ahead of the web, which is caused by the thinning and excessive working of the brass. It's called an incipient head separation. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that military brass, every time you reload it, is going to take and separate. That's not the case at all. Usually it's done from overworking your brass.
Yeah. So say you've got that, and there isn't just so you know, for those of you who aren't familiar, there is no magic number for how many times you can reload your brass. Yep. You may have one case one time and you're done. You may have some 15 times. I wouldn't recommend using that many times, but usually I'll go 4 to 5 and then recycle them. There are people that go longer, and make sure you're taking your time inspecting your brass, looking for the little cracks along the, like on the bottlenecks. You're looking for the little cracks along here. You're looking for dents in the case, and then your head separation and everything else. There are ways to check them a little more thoroughly if you want to spend the money. There's some dyes and stuff you can use, and it'll actually show the cracks. Usually, unless you're a precision rifle shooter, you're not going to get that serious because you're running a little higher pressures, or on your higher power cartridges. 303, 308, 30-06 probably isn't really worth it. If you're up into the 450s, there's people running the 700s over in Africa. Those are all going to be pretty much reloads because they don't really make any ammunition for that anymore. But if it's a concern on brass that, say, is rare, you may want to get something like that, especially if even a 35 Remington, where they don't make brass for it anymore, so you have to custom make brass, or some of your other oddball pistol cartridges from around the turn of the 1900s, where you have to make the brass out of other brass. That may be where that chemical checking is a little more worthwhile.
Yep, I don't have much to say to that. The only thing is,
sorry, I kind of went on a ramble.
You ought to be really careful the way you're slamming the 30-06 cartridge. Don't ever say it's not worth reloading. Oh my, you're going to get a lot of people angry with you.
Did I say 30-06?
I was. No.
Oh, sorry. No, 30-06 is probably in my personal opinion, probably the single most useful cartridge on the face of the planet.
Amen to that.
They're literally, there is no game animal you can't take with it, period. And yes, that does include elephant. You load it right, you can take an elephant with a 30-06. So, no, there's nothing wrong with a 30-06. Actually, my first deer rifle was a 30-06. So, if I was in my little rambling rant there, I mentioned anything negative about 30-06, I absolutely take that back, because there is nothing wrong with 30-06.
Hey, you know what this is? This is a stick that I'm using to stir the pot. I may get trouble. That's me.
Yeah. Well, you know what they say about those who stir the pot? They should have to lick the spoon.
You know what? I just saw a posting from Ryan Cross come across the top of my iPad. Ryan Cross says, "I'm glad you're listening. That he designed the logo for the Reloading podcast." You know Ryan? Do you know Ryan Cross?
Yeah.
Well, he just got himself a shout out.
Awesome. Actually, I'm surprised he's listening, because usually he's usually involved in a podcast somewhere around now, unless they change when they record that. But thanks for listening, Ryan. So.
Yep. I quite agree with that. I'm actually looking for the reloading room now to try to find it myself.
Yeah, Ryan is an amazing artist. If you ever need anything done, he does all the artwork for the Firearms Radio Network. So if you want to see some of his handiwork, obviously our Reloading Podcast logos. There is numerous other ones that he does that are just the man's talent is incredible. He turned around and made this logo that we've got in, I think, 36 hours. So it's just amazing, the talent that he has. And if you look very carefully at the logo, you'll notice that it is actually a Dillon press, or a semblance thereof, a Dillon press, as the L in the Reloading, on the Reloading logo. Some people don't really notice that. I've had a couple people that have looked at it and seen it and quite a few times, and I point that out. It's it's Dillon colored anyway, but it's a nice little. So, most of the people that I know of that get into Reloading, even if they don't have a Dillon, Dillon's it, and most people respect it and know it. So.
Well, you'll never hear me knock Dillon, I'll tell you that right now. In fact, I've been involved in a few fights over Dillon versus blue, but that's another story. And we're not going to get into a red versus blue, because I like the red stuff up to a point. There it is, the Reloading Podcast. How to reload ammo, and it's reloadingpodcast.com. All one word, no spaces. Yep, I'm actually looking at the logo right now. Oh, okay, I see what you're talking about, the single stage press. Yeah, it's Dillon blue because of the letter L.
Well, he we had some conversation about what color to make it, and he made it blue when he made it, and then he sent out emails asking about it, and none of us had any issues with it. So, because that is a great color and a great company. So,
Yep.
unfortunately, because they're so great, they don't really do much in sponsorship. So,
No.
so much for that trying to get us a sponsorship. But hey, it was worth a shot.
Oh, that's
So,
another story that I'll tell you off the air. We approached them one time. That's another story.
yeah.
Dillon's a great outfit. Okay, I got a Dillon 550 up in the barn right over my shoulder, and my next press will be a Dillon 650. Problem is, I got other things to buy before I want to spend $1,000 to give myself a 650 set up.
Right. So yeah, it'll be probably years before I get that serious into it. So
I've got rifle scopes that I want to buy and all that sort of thing. But
oh,
yep,
speaking of
yes, go
speaking
ahead,
of
please.
rifle scopes, I forgot to mention one thing I did in firearms this week. Being here in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, I'm right next to Madison, and Madison is home to well, technically it's Middleton, which is the other side of Madison, but they're home to Vortex Optics. Great new optics company. Hasn't been in the game extremely long, but I think 3 or 4 years now. I'm not quite sure. But oh man, I went over and I was over on that side of town running some errands, so I just stopped into their showroom, and that's some fabulous glass. Uh, I was looking through a couple of their scopes and then a couple of the red dot style setups they've got, and it's just clear. The Razor hollow sight is fabulous. They've got it mounted on a 1911 blue gun, and then they also have it in tandem with a regular scope on an AR at the 45-degree angle. Very clear, very easy to pick up the dot. Recommend it highly for if you're looking for just kind of a nice pistol sight. But yeah, I was really impressed with the quality of their optics.
One thing I wanted to tell you, now that you mentioned that, is goes for you and everyone else that's listening, and any of those of you that listen to the MP3 podcast eventually. Get to learn your optics. I'm 61 years old, and I'm still just now really getting to learn what my optics are all about. I've always just set my optics and tried to play Kentucky windage and elevation from there. And I've just recently gotten into long range, interested in extreme long range shooting, where you actually have, to my way of thinking, have to take and make adjustments in your elevation to take and shoot that 1,000 yards. To be able to dial it in and dial in 900 yards. There's a hell of a difference between 1,000 and 900 yards, and it's best if you can dial it in. But the point is, I'm trying to say, I've heard Tom Gresham say this, optics is basically math. But the thing is, the math is real simple. The better your optics, you better start quadrupling your price, because it's math.
When I bought my rifle, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, there was probably 2 or 3 decent optics companies. They've gotten a lot more out there, but I can honestly tell you, my next optic I buy is probably going to be a Vortex. They've got I don't remember the name right off the top of my head. I'll put it in the show notes, but they got a nice little red dot style that's going to go on my AR. It actually has a dot and then 2 circles that start out as black, and then you can actually adjust. They light up to either red or green, and it is just incredibly quick target acquisition. It's very clear. They don't really cover up the target like some of your red dot scopes do. Very nice setup, and then they also have like what EOTech's got, where you've got the magnifier that you can get to go with it. Vortex also has their own little magnifier setup now too, so you can go from the 1x to a 3x. Great little setup for AR. I think I remember Sean Heron from We Like Shooting saying that he's actually got one of those on one of his ARs, so I'll check on that and see. But you can also go over to their page and check their YouTube page, and he puts a lot of reviews up on the different things he's got going.
Well, like I was saying, everybody that you can learn your optics. Absolutely learn what you can because you will not be sorry. You will be well served.
Yeah, and if you want a decent quality optic, what I've seen people have gone now to is going to, more often than not, you're looking at probably about twice what you spend on the rifle, depending on the rifle. Now,
Yes.
depending on how much your depending on how much your rifle is, you may not spend that much because if your rifle's $10,000, your options of getting a $20,000 optic aren't really necessarily out there. But for most of your, especially your deer hunting rifles, spend the money and get a decent optic. Spend that, that anywhere from $300 to $500 at least for a decent scope, maybe a little more depending on where you're hunting. When you buy your economy scope from your mass merchandiser sporting goods store, the under $100 scope, you're going to run into a couple problems. First and foremost, glass quality. You're not going to notice it while you're standing in the store looking at the store through the fluorescent lights. When you pull that rifle up to your shoulder the first time at 5 minutes after dawn on opening morning, and you're staring at that 12-point buck, and you can't see your crosshairs, much less see much anything else through your glass because it's so dingy and poor light, you're going to wish you spent the extra money. So it's really important on what you spend the money on, and make sure you spend the money on a decent set of glass. The other big thing is returning to zero. When you make an adjustment, like especially with Jim's talking about with going long distance shooting and you're actually doing elevation and windage changes, if your scope's not good, when you go to set it back to zero, say you zero it at 200 yards, well then you know what your adjustment is for, say it's 30 inches at 500 yards, 30 inches higher, and you got like a 10 or 15 mile an hour wind, so you got to adjust for that. When you change that adjustment, and then you go back to set that back to whatever your zero was at 200, that scope may not. I guarantee you that cheap scope's not going to go back to where you had it. So you're going to wind up, every time you make an adjustment, you're going to wind up re-zeroing that scope.
Yep. Return to zero is absolutely critical. It is the foremost important point you've got to have is reliability and being able to repeat your zero. I mean, let's face it, you're trying to take and launch bullets at the same place time after time after time. Well, you need to know, you just need to know what you're doing. You need to take in, not so much what you're doing, but you need to be able to have a scope that you can rely upon. When I was in New Mexico last year, and I had a 3-9 Leupold on my, Ruger all-weather stainless in 308, I had to put 39.75 MOA correction into it, and I had to bring it right back down to zero to take and shoot at 200 yards. Now it wound up taking 3 full turns of the screw to take and give me the 36 MOA that I needed, plus 3 more MOA, and of course the 7.5. But anyway, the point is, yeah, Mike's right. I agree with you. I agree with you. Optics is money. Money is optics. And the thing is, that generally the rule of thumb I've always lived with an ordinary hunting rifle is parity. I take and spend $300 for a rifle. New is what I'm talking about, not used. New price. If I spend $500 on a rifle, I should spend at least $500 on optics.
And as a reloader, optics are even more important because if say you're working up a load and you're running a ladder setup, but your scope doesn't hold zero, you're going to think you screwed up something in that load, and so you're going to be frustrated. And instead of walking straight up like it should, say it walks up to the left or up to the right, well, that's because the scope won't hold zero, and every time you pull the trigger, the crosshair jumps, which you're not noticing because of the recoil. Then you're going to be changing your loads, you're going to be tweaking with powder, you're going to be tweaking with everything else based on false data. And as a reloader, that's your biggest enemy, is false data. It can really make you do goofy setups that you shouldn't have to do because of the fact that your first stuff was originally good.
The man's preaching. Tell it like it is, Brother Mike. Tell it like it is. Well, there's nothing more frustrating when you're out there, you're working on trying to get this load, and it's just down pat. And you turn and you think, was that IMR 4895 or IMR 4064? And you don't know. You don't know. You've got incomplete data in that particular situation. Yeah, I know what you got in your hand, Mike. But yeah, you've got incomplete data, and there's nothing more frustrating or drive you crazy faster. It's like you just spent 4 hours on the range working your tail off, and I don't know what powder I used. Keep your records. But that's kind of a weird segue, but you see where I'm going.
Yeah, exactly. You're talking about data. And as we were saying, with the scope, bad data makes you do dumb things. This here is one of the beautiful little things that comes with the little MTM box that I showed you folks earlier. These you can actually order from MTM if you want to go this way. Otherwise, like we've said many times, get a notebook. One of the other things that comes with these MTM boxes is little caliber and bullet stickers. Now here's the beautiful thing about this. You can write caliber and bullet, but unless you've got really bad handwriting, you can see there's lots of room on that sticker. Write that powder on there. There's, when you are doing this hobby, even if you're not serious about it, even if you're just a casual reloader, write it down. Get in the habit from day one of writing it down somewhere, some way, somehow. If that's a spreadsheet on your computer, cool. If that is scrap pieces of paper that you staple together, cool. If it's a notebook, great. There's all sorts of different ways. Everybody does it differently. You don't have to do it differently. You don't have to do it a specific way. Just do it. Write down your load data of what powder you used, how many greens you used, what bullet you used. Those are your big informations that you need to know so you can replicate that load if you need to. Or if it was a crappy load and you've got a group like this, then you know not to do that again. So, but if you didn't write down what you did, you're not going to have a clue.
Well, 3-ring binders are actually very inexpensive, and Mike, you make me laugh all the time. But really and truly, it's get yourself at least a 2-inch binder for every gun you have, and I'm talking about for every gun. If you got 35 guns, get 35 notebooks. Don't do it all at one time, but do it 1 or 2 a month or a week or whatever. You have to determine your own budget. But yeah, I am in the process of developing notebooks for every gun I have. Every time the gun comes out, and you can put everything you do with that gun, whether or not I cleaned the gun, I cleaned the rifle today, I took the butt plate off, I did an inspection on the trigger guard because it felt like it had a burr on it or something like that. You put all kinds of things. It's like, well, the only thing I wouldn't actually put in there is if if I'm having a discussion about the fact that my 270 can fire 7/8 of an inch groups at 300 yards to a friend if it's just a verbal discussion. I don't put that in there. That's ridiculous. But the point is, if you take that rifle out of its case, have that notebook right there alongside of it and write down what you did. This way, it'll be valuable information. Did I change that firing pin in that rifle? Yeah, I did right here on the 9th of September in 2013.
And for those of you who carry one of these around, one of these little smartphones, whether it's a Android or an iPhone or a Windows phone, even if it's an old school PDA, they've got Microsoft Word, they've got the little Word programs you can do. There's all sorts of different options you can do, even just the little notepads. Say you forgot to take your notebook, you put it in your phone, you transfer it to your notebook later. Or if you're a nerd, then by all means keep it digitally, but make sure you keep it backup. So whether it's on a zip drive or an external hard drive or you save it to the cloud, you want to save that so whether you're doing it the way whether you're doing it with ink and paper, which is a great way to do it, there's nothing wrong with it, or if you're a techie nerd and you like to keep it on digitally, just make sure you're keeping it as a backup, because you don't ever want to lose that information. There, I'm sure Jim, with his experience, he's probably got hundreds and hundreds of pages of information, and he from time to time takes time to look back. I know I do, from when I first made my first load, if I'm working on new loads for different things. And just because it's for one cartridge doesn't necessarily mean some of that information won't carry over to other cartridges, because you can look and you can calculate percentages of increase in powder, and you can kind of compare between different, Magnum cartridges or different pistol cartridges. Okay, so in my, 9mm, I increased the powder charge by 5%, and this is what happened. Did the load get more accurate? Did it get less accurate? And you can kind of use that as a basis for when you're working up new load. And the persons whose notes I'd really love to see would be Ackley's. Those would be cool. But if you get into wildcatting, then all of that stuff's going to be even more important, because you're going to have a huge amount of information, and if you like to use the same powder for different cartridges, then you're going to have Jim's got a book right there. Say something, Jim.
Volume 2, Handbook for Shooters and Reloaders by Parker O.T. Ackley. Right here. There's the book.
There you go.
I don't have the Volume 1. I lost that to my ex, but I did find this on Amazon. And, you talk about data, you talk about information. I mean, right there. You're straight from the master, Parker Ackley. And this is on a cartridge called 444 Marlin. He's driving a 320 grain bullet with 40 grains of 4198, and he's driving it at, oh my God, at 1,898 feet per second. A 320 bullet out of a lever gun, 4198, which is known to be a fast powder. But to drive that bullet at 1,898 feet per second. Jason Trumbo, I happen to know that you have a 444 Marlin. And yeah, you use your 240 grain, 250 grain key semi wad cutters. I know that for a fact. But I'd like to know what kind of velocity you drive 300 grain bullets at with your reloads. Now that data comes straight out of the book, Handbook for Shooters and Reloaders. So don't take it as my reloading data. Don't say that I gave you the recipe, because all I'm doing is being a parrot and reciting what the master wrote.
Yeah. And that guy. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was just going to say I've been trying to locate Volume 1, but the problem is Volume 1 of this particular set is a much more valuable book. It has a lot more information in, like, for example, how to build yourself a ballistic pendulum, a chronograph that works like a pendulum, and all that sort of thing. But the problem is that book is about $100. I just couldn't justify putting $100 into that book yet.
Yep, that I understand. That's one of those garage sale books. You just, every time you tell everybody, hey, when you're going to garage sale, if they got books, look for this. Look for this. So.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, you just made me think of a question that I want to take and pose to you and to all the listeners out there. And I think you may know the answer, but I don't know. All right, we're shooting a 38 special. All right, and we're going to take and run 2.7 grains of bullseye underneath of a 148 grain wad cutter. All right, and we're going to take and drive that at about 760, 770 feet per second. Now, we're going to, and that's what we target shoot with. Nice, easy, mild recoil, that sort of thing. Now, we change the load a little bit. We change the load up to, I don't know, 3.2, a half a grain of bullseye. And if you know anything about handgun ammo, that's a lot of powder change. We'll say we're driving that bullet now at 900 feet per second. In 38 special, that's pretty stiff. And that's just a number I'm pulling out of the air. My question to you and to the listeners especially if we have somebody right there chatting with you, is if you increase the velocity of the bullet in a handgun, all things being the same, if you do not change your point of aim, you do not change anything except the velocity, you'd go from 760 feet per second up to 900 feet per second. Will your point of impact be higher or lower when you discharge the handgun?
What range are we shooting it at?
50 feet. Even 100 feet. I smell eggs frying, folks.
I will answer that off air, and then we will have people post their answers onto the or onto the Google Plus page.
Okay. I'll buy that.
So
because I did address it to everyone.
We'll also post that in the reloading room and see what we get for answers there.
That post has been in the reloading room.
Okay.
You're still allowed to post it. Don't get me wrong. You're allowed to post it. But that post has been in the reloading room. Remember, the reloading room is almost 3 years old.
Yeah. I didn't know if you'd posted that there or not. So if you have posted it, then we won't, unless we go find the old post and bump it. Maybe that's what we'll do.
Yeah. Good luck with that. With all the traffic the reloading room gets.
Yeah, I know. Hey, I got some time.
I am lucky if I could find the weekly thread that I change every week.
That's a fun thread. So.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, we're going to wrap up another show here, and we thank you for tuning in. And, yeah, go ahead and post your answers to the Google Plus page. It's Reloading Podcast. Just search that at the Google Plus. We'll see what everybody comes up with for the answer. And no, I'm not answering it on the air. I will post my answer on that page, but I don't want to taint any of you all. And I will post whether it was right or wrong. So, thanks everybody for tuning in. And Jim, where can we find you at?
Come see us on Facebook in the Reloading Room, guys. That's where I'm usually at. If nothing else, look me up in the Reloading Room. My name is a very top name. My name is on the pin post. And send me a private message. I'll answer you. I'll probably generally, if it's a reloading question, I'll have you go out in the reloading room, or I'll copy your answer and paste it in the reloading room. But that's Facebook. Let's see, www.facebook.com/the reloading room, all 3 words. Yes, the contact info is on the Reloading Podcast. I'm actually on that page. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. I need to get you a picture on the about tab for that page, by the way.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't want to grab one of yours. I figured I was going to send you a message and I forgot. So you can find me, Google Plus, Facebook. My email is also listed on the reloadingpodcast.com page. I've got a smartphone. I'm a stupid nerd, so I've usually got it with me. So send me a question. If you got questions, send me comments. Hit me on a Hangout or Facebook Messenger, either way, and I'll answer. Just as like Jim said, though, if you send a reloading question, I will probably also post it in the reloading room. Just because we're hosting a podcast doesn't mean we have every answer. We'd love to, but there may be a situation here or there that I know there's plenty of them I haven't come across yet, and there may be 1 or 2 that Jim hasn't. So that's why we like having having you submit the questions. We'll answer them on the air one way or another. But we also want to make sure that people in the reloading room get to put input because that is a great wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, guy just sent me a private message asking me about using 44 Magnum bullets in his old 44 cap and ball. And I told the guy, yeah, that's what I told the guy. I says, I don't know because I've never done cap and ball loads. But, the thing is, my point is, when somebody asks me a question that I don't know, I have to, in my position, as the founder of the Reloading Room, in my position, I have to give you a straight answer. If I don't know the answer, I don't dare fudge that answer. Because if I do, I'm taking a chance that you're going to listen to what I've said, wrong or right or indifferent or ugly or bad, and you wind up hurting yourself, guess who's responsible? Me. And I ain't going to do that.
Nope. That's the one thing is, it's not necessarily knowing what you know, it's knowing what you don't know and having the courage to admit that you don't know it.
Yes, sir.
And that's when we call in the community. So, all right. So www.facebook.com/thereloadingroom is the reloading room on Facebook. The podcast webpage is www.reloadingpodcast.com. And then it's Reloading Podcast on Google+, Reloading Podcast on Facebook.
Jason just put up an answer. Sorry, I know I just interrupted you, but Jason just put up an answer. He shoots a, let me see here, I'm not sure where he put it up. There it is, private message. 240 grain, he drives it at 2,300 feet per second. Thank you, Jason.
All right. Awesome
go
job.
ahead, Mike. You were signing off, and I apologize for cutting you off like that.
Oh, no. I mean, that's a beautiful thing is we can, with the technology we get those instant, we get those answers. Yeah. So that is moving pretty good for that big hunk of lead. I wouldn't want to be on the other end of it. I'll tell you that much.
No, we don't want to get on the receiving end.
No. So just remember, follow your safety rules when you're reloading, and when you are unloading, make sure you follow tab K. You gotta make sure that you're practicing safety at all times. It's a very serious, very dangerous sport if you are being stupid, and it can go very bad very quickly. Just make sure you're practicing safety. If you have any questions about safety, whether something is safe or not, don't do it. If it's something you're wondering in the back of your mind, I wonder if this could happen or if this could be unsafe. If there's any sort of question in your mind, don't do it. That's
Agreed.
just a simple, common sense thought and answer. So, once again, we thank you for tuning in. And for those of you listening on the audio podcast, we thank you also. And we'll see you next week. Have a good night, Jim.
All right. Take care, folks. Come see us. Come join the reloading room.